One of the things we're using AI for is to produce better DEMs globally. The ones that we get are largely constructed from satellite imagery, and they see the tops of buildings and the tops of trees, whereas for a flood model, clearly we don't want the water being blocked by a tree. We need to strip back to bare earth. Hello, everyone.
Paul, it's a real pleasure to have you. Now, you don't often get seen as the face of Fathom in our world anyway, but so it's really tremendous to have you here. You're one of the original people behind the company. What was it that sort of took you out of your day job, which you're still doing as a professor at Bristol, to actually decide to start up a company?
I guess the most important thing is we thought it would be fun. I don't know why we thought that, but we thought it would be fun. And in large part, it genuinely was. I suppose if I was going to say, a more intelligent answer, it was that to build global flood models is difficult. It's probably, I would say this, wouldn't I, but it's the hardest peril to model because everything is so local. And therefore, the amount of data and the compute that you have to leverage to do a good job is really huge. And basically, the people who fund research in the UK simply wouldn't give me a grant that was big enough to do the thing that I wanted to do. If I went to the Natural Environment Research Council and said, okay, guys, I'm going to need 20 postdocs for 10 years and I'm going to need £500,000 worth of computing, I'd have just got laughed at. I mean, the grants they give out are a fraction of that size. So we realized that the only way that we could do the thing that we knew how to do was to leverage private money to do that. And that meant bootstrapping a business slowly over time until we got to a size that we had all the bits that we needed in order to be able to build a global flood model.
And how long ago was that?
So we had the idea in 2013. We got some seed call money from the UK government right at the start through the Natural Environment Research Council. They were good with that. When that came to an end, we had our first contracts and we could rent a small, sweaty little office in Bristol and pay salaries to my other co-founders. So yeah, 2015 really started paying salaries and earning money. And then all the way through to some investment from Moody's in 2020 and then being bought by Swiss Re in 2023.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And still having fun by the looks of things.
Yes, very much so. I mean, I've come to a general rule in life that I don't do anything unless it's going to be fun. I mean, I would encourage you all to adopt this policy. It works a treat.
And of course, your day job is as a professor. Can you just talk a little bit more about what you do for the university?
Yeah, so I work part-time at Fathom and part-time at the university. There I still teach. I was teaching yesterday. I'm teaching tomorrow morning, if anyone's interested. I have my PhD students and postdocs. And essentially, it's a virtuous circle between the university and Fathom. At the university, we can do fundamental research and develop methods. We then put those into the public domain, where anyone can pick them up. But then Fathom takes those ideas and turns them into products. And the nice thing is we can then take those data sets and industry standard code base back into Fathom and do more research with it. So actually, they both work really nicely together. They complement rather than conflict.
Should be a case study for the UK government, right from that early funding through to how you're supporting it now with all the research you're doing. And when people are thinking about flood modelling and data they should provide, what's your advice to anybody looking to work with a flood model data vendor in terms of what they should look for to make the right choice?
I think the thing I would say is that as well as Fathom, there's other really good ones out there. The questions I would ask are the ones I'd ask about any science data provider. Ask for peer-reviewed evidence that their methods work. Look for robust, non-trivial validation tests. Look for high scientific credentials amongst the people who are telling you what they're doing. And if they're giving you an AI black box and won't tell you what's in it, then I would run a mile.
And of course, Fathom does all those things and is actually known for it in terms of visibility and transparency.
That's hopefully our USP. I mean, we started out as a science-led organisation and we've tried to keep close to that. But I mean, other flood modelling companies are available and some of them also do similar things and they're very good.
Good. Well, it's a very collaborative industry, so thank you for saying that. You touched on AI. Every company now is talking about what they're doing with AI, generative AI, agentic AI. Can you give us an example you're using that in the models?
Okay. So the most important thing in flood modelling is the quality of the digital elevation data that you use. Not the resolution necessarily, but certainly the quality. And the better the digital elevation data, the better the model. If you don't have good elevation data, your model's not going to be very good. So one of the things we're using AI for is to produce better DEMs globally. The ones that we get are largely constructed from satellite imagery, and they see the tops of buildings and the tops of trees. Whereas for a flood model, clearly we don't want the water being blocked by a tree that's there as a blockage in the DM. So we need to strip back to bare earth. And we've tried lots of approaches for this, and increasingly AI machine learning of increasing sophistication. So we started out with some work on using random forest regression models, but now we've moved on to these vision transformer diffusion models, which are really quite sophisticated. And they're able to, from a whole bunch of predictor variables, decide which elements of a raw digital surface model are buildings and trees and artifacts, and what to do about stripping those off and getting back to the bare earth. And those are really quite powerful. So I think there's an example where it works really well. I've got one where it doesn't, if you want to hear that.
Oh, go on. I can't not give it to you now.
AI works where you have lots and lots of really high-quality labeled training data. So the one thing we haven't been able to replace with an AI so far is the dynamical model that we use to predict floods. There we're solving proper physics-based equations. And that's because there's not enough good training data to train an AI to do that instead. Most of the data we get from floods, you guys know this, is somewhat patchy. There's not much of it, and the stuff that we get can be disinformative. So there's not enough of it, and there's not enough quality to train a model to replace the dynamical physics-based codes as of yet.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we talked about that, because there are a lot of companies sort of offering false hope on what can be offered with AI without that kind of data. And certainly, those of us who've looked at this at all know that how difficult it is to simulate the flood data. I just want to talk a bit about the experience of being acquired by Swiss Re. So a big reinsurance company, Fathom, is relatively small. How's it been going so far? Well,
integrating a small, I should watch what I'm saying, Ali Shah-Karimi is one of my colleagues from Swiss Re, is certainly in the building, if not others. It's going really well. I think there's some challenges integrating a small agile startup of academically minded people with a large organization. But the advantages are the credibility it gives us, the access to expertise and markets and data that we wouldn't have had in any other way. So in terms of expanding the reach of Fathom data and increasing the number of people we can get it to, it's really, really beneficial.
There's two good things to look at when companies are acquired. One is they let the company being acquired keep its name, so you kept Fathom. And secondly, slightly selfishly for us, they allow you to keep your marketing budget. So very, very, very good advice for anybody acquiring companies. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matthew.